My name is Hazel Millisham, and this is the Light on Leeds podcast, all about the brilliant people in Leeds doing amazing things. The guest on this episode this week is Dr. Adam Booth. He's an Associate Professor of Applied Geophysics at the University of Leeds, and he has come up with a brilliant night called Quantum Source, which takes place at the Constitutional in Farsley. It's a blend of fascinating science facts that keeps you curious. And the tagline is, it's science meets stand-up. I really enjoyed speaking to Adam. I would thoroughly recommend going along and seeing one of the nights. I will put lots of links in the podcast notes so that you can click through and look at their stuff and their previous episodes that they've uploaded onto YouTube, etc. It was really great talking to him. Have a listen. On this episode of Light on Leeds, I have Dr. Adam Booth, who's come to speak to me remotely, albeit. Hello, Dr. Adam Booth, how are you?
Hi, Hazel, I'm fine. It's a nice sunny day and I've got a nice view over the Leeds-Liverpool Canal, so all's good.
Brilliant. So, Adam, you are an Associate Professor of Applied Geophysics at the University of Leeds. Can you explain what that is?
Cool, yeah, okay. So geophysics is basically like looking under the ground for buried things. And that's whether those things are buried resources like minerals or groundwater, or whether it's things like archaeological deposits. So, we explore for things in the ground beneath your feet using various physical methods without having to dig the ground up.
That's a great explanation. And Adam, you're really here today to talk to me a bit about Quantum Source. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so Quantum Source is basically what we would call an outreach project. What we do is we get people together in a pub and we bring to them 3 real-life researchers from the university, usually from Leeds, but from wherever else. And those researchers talk to the audience about the science and the research that they do. It's kind of a way of breaking down barriers between researchers at the university and the general public. I think there is often barriers between a university researcher and the general public who doesn't really know what they do and what relevance their work has to everybody's day-to-day lives. And so, in its own little way, Quantum Source tries to make a better relationship between us in the university and the wider public.
That's a great idea because, quite often the only thing that you really hear about scientists is some crazy tiny piece of research that then a newspaper will, completely in isolation and out of context, publish. And you quite often read things you think, who's paying for these people to research that crazy thing?
Right, exactly. So building that link between, the public as generally the taxpayer and as the funder of that research and the people who are at the front line of that research, I think is really important. And you're quite right that, a lot of scientific breakthroughs and things, they potentially get misrepresented in the newspapers. There's a growing mistrust, I think, in science. When you just got to look at kind of vaccine denial, climate change skepticism, and things like that. And ultimately, it's the public who need to know this stuff and know why it's relevant. So, like I say, Quantum Source itself isn't going to change that whole culture, but I would like to think that it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. And when did you begin this project?
So we're just coming up to our 2-year anniversary. So I got together with a group from the Constitutional Club in Farsley in West Leeds. And it was over summer of 2019 where I started to rustle up this science communication plan. And the first of our evenings that we did was in Halloween of 2019. We're just coming up to a 2-year birthday.
Fantastic. And so how often are these events held?
The original plan was that they would roughly be once a month, but then I don't know if you heard, but there was this global pandemic, and so our live events, as I say, that were scheduled monthly, the pandemic put paid to them, and it was in March of 2020 that we then decided to take Quantum Source online as well. So as well as the kind of monthly live events, over the summer we also recorded almost 30 videos that somehow related to science and research under lockdown and the kind of ideas that went along with that.
And how have you had much feedback? How has it all gone?
Yeah, feedback's been really good actually, both from the university researchers who present at Quantum Source, because it's a really different way of engaging with for them, I think, but also from the public. We've certainly had a lot of return attendees at the Constitutional Club for the live events. And just milling around the bar, talking to the audience after, you can hear that they really are talking about the research that the researchers were presenting, like really asking questions that they'd maybe not thought about before. And then one of my favourite quotes was that someone who had come along for one particular talk and not kind of interested in the other, but really had their eyes open to it. And so they were saying, it started them thinking about science in a way that they never had before. And that's exactly it. It's that comment encapsulates what I'm trying to do with the project.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? I was watching a TV program last night where they were talking about sort of in the past, you would kind of have like salons for people to talk about ideas and discuss science and things that were happening. And we don't really seem to have that kind of a forum these days. Or if we do, it's very much heavily biased one way or another.
Yeah, that's right. I think that and as a result, there is that disconnect between the general public and university researchers. What I've tried to do is, I suppose, try to recreate a little bit of that mentality by, rather than getting people onto the university campus where there is a little bit of that barrier already present, to actually take Quantum Source into a pub where there's no kind of university branding as such. It's just, look, here you are, enjoy a couple of pints, enjoy these talks. It's science and research on your own terms. And before you know it, the learning and the engagement with the science is happening via the back door.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, what a brilliant idea. When you're approaching researchers, like in the beginning, did you have a few people you had in mind that what might like to get involved? And then as everything's evolved, do you have people approaching you? How do you decide who you're going to have on?
Yeah, kind of like we're delving into the deep past of the quantum source idea here, because the first quantum source idea that I had was linked to one of my own research projects, which was using geophysics in the Antarctic to understand one of the big glaciers that's down there. And I wanted to do an Antarctic outreach night, but again, very much sort of tapping into that informal style of science communication rather than a very formalized Antarctic night, which frankly, with all the news about climate change, could be quite doom and gloom. I wanted to try and engage people on their own terms, not dumbing it down, not in a light-hearted way, but certainly in a way that they would feel comfortable with. So yeah, I had an idea in the first place that I wanted to approach researchers from Antarctic science. But in order to build a bit of momentum for that event, I started to frame the nights less around individuals and their research, but more around general themes going on at a particular time of year, which is why I say that the first Quantum Source was a Halloween event. And so it was actually kind of nice to sit and brainstorm, really, because you kind of think to yourself, right, if I was in all sorts of different university departments, how might I perceive Halloween? And, I searched through the Leeds research pages and found that there was a researcher in the School of Classics who studies ancient Greek necromancy, so, talking to the dead and how they thought they could do it in ancient Greece. Equally, there was a researcher in the School of Media who does perceptions of horror screenwriting and sort of feminist perspectives on that. So we could put together this real mixed bag of research talks, and I think that made it really exciting. And obviously, from a marketing point of view, you can link it to Halloween and things like that. So yeah, I approached the researchers by trying to put myself in the shoes of different departments, and then just kind of evolving this tenuous link to the theme. And that's often kind of like the amusing part. How do we link these bits of research together? And it's good fun.
And is there a lot of enthusiasm with the researchers, I mean, obviously, I imagine most of them are used to presenting information perhaps to students or other colleagues. So they're not going to be sort of shy about presenting that information. Or is it quite a different experience for them, like you say, doing it in a pub atmosphere?
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised. I think that absolutely, these researchers, they know their stuff. Like you say, they're used to teaching it to students. They're used to um, taking a science idea or research idea from the start and reaching some endpoint with it. But yeah, talking to the wider public, I'm not sure it comes naturally to everybody. Some it absolutely does. Others were really initially intimidated by the setup within the Constitutional Club, the venue for Quantum Source, which was much more along the lines of like a stand-up comedy venue. So, there's a stage with a microphone and there's a spotlight on you. And yeah, in the first place, I think they found that a little bit intimidating, but they very, very quickly warmed to the reaction that they were getting from the audience, because at the end of the day, the audience was there to listen to them and to learn and enjoy some science stuff. Um, and so for the first one, when we've got 70 people packed into the Constitutional, um, this researcher in necromancy was sort of blown away that the general public would be interested in this, and I think she felt that if she got the same reaction from the public as she does with all of her students, then she'd be really happy. So yeah, that's one of the things that I've been surprised and really satisfied about, in that it's not just the public who gets something out of it, it's the researchers too. They learn about a different way of communicating their research, and yeah, that's been really nice.
And have you had anybody sort of come to you and ask, "Can I be part of this?" Or are you still are you discovering people because, like you said, the episodes can be sort of themed?
Yeah, so not yet. I still think that within the big picture of a university outreach project, we're not so well known yet. We're getting there, and word of Quantum Source is spreading around the university networks and things like that. But it's generally mostly that I will contact researchers and invite them to give a talk. When we took the Quantum Sources online, we did actually have a request from the University of Leeds public engagement team, who had caught wind of Quantum Source, and they said they really liked the format because it gives them access to a demographic that they normally don't get. And as such, they asked us if we could do two themed Quantum Source releases for their Be Curious outreach festival that they were doing. So yeah, that started to build as a bit more of a following, and yeah, that was nice.
And I bet I imagine it must be quite fascinating for you, is it? Thinking ahead and thinking of the next scenes that are coming up, and then, like you say, looking through research papers to find things that fit. Is that quite a fun thing for you to do?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm kind of interested in all sorts of things anyway. In my own geophysical research, one week I'll be working on Antarctic glaciers, the next on archaeological targets, the next on environmental problems, and that in itself brings you into contact with a whole diverse range of researchers. And what you find is that they're all fascinating people. They've all got their little niche area, and you can build links between them. And so, listening to their particular take on a subject is always really interesting and exciting. And then to see them engage the public in that way and get the public laughing and enjoying and learning stuff all at the same time is it's really good.
And when were you quite disheartened when obviously the big terrible thing happened in March 2020? It must have been quite frustrating because you'd got so far with your live episodes and then to have to take it online. Or how do you feel about that whole situation?
It really felt like momentum was growing behind the live events. And so the first live event that got cancelled was the Antarctic one, the one that had inspired Quantum Source in the first place, and so
Yeah.
that was really pretty disappointing. I still took with me the memories of the three live events that we did. So we did a Halloween themed one, a Christmas one, and a Valentine's one. Um, And after the initial shock of everything moving online, and particularly with starting to do some teaching online and have wider meetings with colleagues at the university online, I realised, well, why can't we take quantum source online? And so I talked to the Constitutional about this, and they were happy with the idea. We were able to get some funding to support the video editing from Leeds Inspired, which was we were really appreciative of. And then the quantum source took on this online identity that I think it was really fascinating to get these different academics and their different research perspectives on themes of lockdown and quarantine and the things that were going on over summer 2020. But also with one eye on keeping the quantum source momentum going in one format or another. And it does seem that word got round around West Leeds, around Farsley, and so when we did return to live events about a month ago, we had a really good uptake of ticket sales. It seemed that. I mean, I flatter myself and say everybody wanted a piece of live science. Maybe everybody just actually wanted some live events to come back. But yeah, there was a real good buzz about the place. So yeah, it was regrettable, but I think that kind of multimedia format really worked.
Yeah, and great to make some positives out of a
Yeah,
pretty
definitely.
negative
I mean,
time.
to be honest, when I was, you say, do I enjoy sort of contacting all these other researchers? In some ways, that's really what kept me sane during the lockdown, was just to be brainstorming and then reaching out to people. Obviously, from beyond the Leeds area now, we had presenters from Australia because that's the flexibility of the online platform. Yeah, so contacting all these researchers and having these half-hour chats with them about what they do. It kept me sane. It was really good fun and a really necessary part of my summer.
Yeah, I can completely understand that. That's
Mm.
been really helpful for me to speak to at least two people a week who are doing fantastic things and being really positive and, seeing how Leeds is coping. That was definitely helpful for me too.
Yeah, cool.
So, can you tell me a little bit about the Constitutional in Farsley? So it's a pub.
It's more like a club. Originally, I think it's I mean, almost the clues in the name. It's the Constitutional Club. It's like a old working man's club, and a lot of the old sort of decoration is still present in there. So it's almost like walking into history. It's on Farsley Town Street, and it's currently run by the Trouble at Mill team,
Oh
who
yeah.
sort of a theatre company. They had sites on Sunnybank Mills. They then moved out of that and took over the Constitutional, but have since gone back and opened a new venue at Sunnybank Mills as well, called the Old Woolen. So between the Constitutional Club and the Old Woolen, there's all sorts of events that go on in Farsley. It's brilliant. There's stand-up comedy, there's gigs, there's spoken word events, and it's just a real mixed bag. And that's really why I thought that Quantum Source would be the kind of thing that would appeal to them. So when I first started to think about where would I like to run this project, the Constitutional became a bit of a natural choice, really, just because they kind of had this local reputation of putting on slightly weird and different events, but they had a local following, so it almost seemed I could tap into that. And yeah, Quantum Source seems to have just slotted perfectly into their wider program of events.
Yeah. And can I ask you, Adam, have you always been interested in science since you were a child? How did you sort of get into what it is that you're doing now?
Yeah, I suppose I have. I think that certainly, like, I would sit and flick through my encyclopedia of dinosaurs or something like that, which was like looking at cool pictures of dinosaurs more than the actual science and anything like that. But yeah, and then I, started getting into collecting rocks and crystals and things like that. So I suppose it was always written in the stars that I would become a geoscientist of some description. But I'm not sure I really realised that at the time. And when I was starting to look at university courses that I could do, I didn't really have a particularly well developed idea. And in the end, it was my mum who said, "Well, what about this geophysics thing? She'd been thumbing through the prospectuses and syllabuses that I'd been collecting. And she said, you've always been into earthquakes and volcanoes and things. How about you give this a whirl? And I kind of shrugged and went, yeah, okay, we'll give it a try. But yeah, over the course of my undergraduate days, I really did start to find a bit of an affinity with it. So yeah, it's all thanks to my mum.
All thanks to your mum. Brilliant. And what events have you got coming up, Adam, that you can tell us about?
So our next event is oh blimey, I've gone blank. What is it? I'll tell you the one about after. The one after that is a Doctor Who event, because it just so happens that in the week of the 18th of November, it is an anniversary of the first broadcast of Doctor Who, and so we're exploring the science and the research behind 3 Doctor Who episodes. And that's right. The one that I was forgetting about was our sequel, our Halloween sequel. So we have 3 more from the spookier side of science coming up.
Yeah, I had a little look at those and they look great. It's exactly the kind of thing I'm interested in.
Cool, yeah. I mean, the whole thing, the Halloween theme lends itself to quite a lot of stuff. So this time round, we have research into regenerative medicine, kind of celebrating the it's alive kind of science. We have a Chinese ghost story, and we have how not to waste your pumpkin. And then for Doctor Who, it's there's translation studies. So how does the Doctor really know what all those aliens are saying? Can he be sure? Maybe exterminate in Dalek language translates to, hey, how are you going? And it's all just been one big misunderstanding. But we also have a guy from the physics and maths department who's looking at extrasolar planets, so planets way, way, way away. And we have concepts of regeneration and reincarnation, which is obviously all a central part of the Doctor Who myth.
Wow, I mean, Doctor Who is got such a huge fan base. I imagine that's going to be very popular indeed.
Yeah, I really hope it will. Yeah, it's just we can tap into this stuff, and hopefully we get the formula right.
And if you ever do one in the future on Star Trek: The Next Generation and the science in that, I'd be very interested in that. Like,
right,
when are we going to get a replicator?
Yeah, we'll talk about what's right and wrong with space travel. I'm actually thinking of one for Quantum Source at the movies for Oscar night at the end of February, and I've already got there that there's a guy who works at Sheffield's Blast Engineering Centre, so looking at explosives, and he's going to do the Hall of Fame and the Hall of Shame of movie explosions.
So, that'll be amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely, and that's university research for you.
So, Adam, can I ask you, have you always lived in Leeds?
No, I've not. I'm originally from Stoke-on-Trent, and I first came to Leeds in 1999 for my undergraduate degree. I then stayed until 2007, and I think at that point, Leeds it felt like a very different city to what I'd come to in the first place. A lot of the old bars had kind of been taken over a little bit, and so some of the kind of novelty had worn off a little bit, and so I was really kind of ready to get out a little bit and see somewhere else. So after my PhD at Leeds, I did a postdoctoral research position in Swansea, and after 4 years there or so, moved to London. And at the end of my contract there, my current lectureship came up at Leeds, so I applied for that and was able to move back. And I found that the city had kind of redeveloped this personality that I loved. And some of my friends said that, look, it's not necessarily that the sticky floored bars are back. Maybe you've just reached a time of your life where you don't want to be hanging around till 3 a.m. every morning in a really sticky floored bar. And I'd take that point. So myself and the city seem to have matured a little bit, and yeah, I really enjoy it here.
Oh, good. And that means that you're completely qualified to answer the 3 questions that I ask every guest. The first one being, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
I really like how Leeds has this compact city centre, and then you don't have to go very far to find yourself in these kind of satellite towns that all have their own personality and all have their own amenities and buzz about them. And then you don't even have to go very much further than that, and you find yourself in really beautiful countryside. So yeah, that feeling of towns within a city and really easy access to the great outdoors is great. I also like how, I mean, particularly living right next to the Leeds Liverpool Canal, you can see all these traces of Leeds industrial heritage around the place. You know, the mills, indeed, the Constitutional Club, the old Woolen, all these signs of what Leeds has been and what it continues to be. I think that's really great.
I think that's a brilliant answer. And if you had to choose something that wasn't so great about the city, what is it you would choose?
I think it's probably with that idea about these kind of towns that grew up organically and then became Leeds centre. Maybe it wasn't designed with mass transit in mind, and so the traffic gets kind of bad. I think that's kind of like a more serious one than what it immediately implies, because obviously Leeds declared the climate emergency, and I'm not sure to what extent the principles of that have really been maintained. So, you know, I do see that cycle lanes are popping up, but not everybody cycles. And the vicious circle is that with all that congestion, the public transport isn't so efficient, and as such, people don't use public transport, and so you just get this vicious circle. So, I do think that the city could do well to remember the principles of the climate emergency and just try to alleviate some of the dependency that the city has on commuting by car.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to be honest, I think I've released like 116 episodes. The
Mm,
majority of saying what's not so great about the city is exactly the same.
yeah,
And like I noticed yesterday, I happened to be in town returning some library books before the
mm,
librarians got really mad with me. And I noticed that there were some banners up talking about, trying to get into Leeds and not use your car and things like that. And I think it's all very well having banners up and,
yeah,
and telling people, we all know that.
yeah,
But, I rely on public transport.
mm,
I won't name the bus company because I think everybody will know who it is. But you know that it's just not reliable, and it's very. I mean, luckily, working from home over this last period,
mm,
I didn't realise how much of a bind it sort of was in my day to day life
yes,
until I tried to return to. I'll try to get somewhere on time. Yeah, I think that it's all very well having slogans and banners and things, but you
yeah.
need to really address how you how you actually do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I was chatting to someone about this question yesterday, and that they told me that Leeds is now the biggest city in Europe without a mass transit system, and that really surprised me. I mean, I suppose I was surprised by by where Leeds ranks amongst really big cities, because it always feels really compact to me. But then that idea that equivalent cities all have mass transit systems is just
Yeah,
it's pretty mind blowing. And like, you can champion all the benefits, both environmental and for health, of cycling, but not everybody cycles. Not everybody feels comfortable cycling in the depths of winter.
yeah,
There's just so much that seems to be taken for granted. And as you say, if someone doesn't put the money where the mouth is, then it's just empty phrases and blaming those who do drive the cars. But there isn't much alternative.
yeah. I completely agree.
Mm.
And if somebody had been a resident of Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem that they might never have heard of?
I would, I might be biased here, but I would suggest that they get over to Farsley, because it's a really up and coming place. It just seems that even in the 5 years since I've lived in Rodley, just down from Farsley, there's just such a vibrancy that has come about the place. So if you're looking for kind of quirky events, a quirky night out, go and see something that you'll never see anywhere else and might not see again. Get yourself over to Farsley.
I think that's a great recommendation, and I shall definitely be taking part in that myself.
Excellent.
And what will you be doing with the rest of your afternoon?
The rest of my afternoon, I'm currently preparing teaching materials for our students on our exploration geophysics masters course. I've got a few lectures next week, and I hope the students live in that blissful ignorance that I'm only one step ahead of them at some point. So yeah, that's the rest of my afternoon.
Oh, well, good luck with it all. I hope you get it finished and then you can have some relaxed time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming along.
No problem at all. Lovely talking to you.
You too.
Cool.
What a great time I had chatting with Adam. The next Quantum Source event takes place on Thursday, the 18th of November, at the Constitutional in Farsley. The subject's fascinating because it's Doctor in the Tardis, where Dr. Mikel Burley will be looking at the next Doctor, Regeneration, Reincarnation, and personal identity problems. Dr. Adrian will be presenting The Impossible Planet. Dr. Sara Ramos Pinto presents Daleks in Manhattan, Lost and Found in Translation. As usual, all of the links to everything that we've mentioned are in the podcast notes. It'd be great if you could get yourself there and let me know what you think of it. The featured song on this episode is the beautiful You Gotta Move by Nick Cody and the Heartache. Have a great week, Leeds. Speak soon.
What's happening in this great city? We'll tell you. But wait a minute.
Give your body